Hey everyone, and welcome to World Heritage Journey. For today's video, we're at the Gondwana Rainforests of Australia in eastern Australia. So this World Heritage Site is another of Australia's incredible natural wonders. It's known as the Gondwana Rainforests because when Australia was part of Gondwana, the supercontinent, it was entirely covered in rainforests. These days, after Australia has broken off from Gondwana millions and millions of years ago, it's become the hottest and the driest continent on Earth, and there's not that much rainforest left. What you can see behind me is one of the last remaining areas of subtropical rainforest in Australia, and that's why it's so special. Let's check it out. The Gondwana Rainforests World Heritage Site is made up of 50 separate national parks and nature reserves, totaling an impressive 350,000 hectares. They're spread along an 800-kilometre stretch of Australia's eastern coast, and they can roughly be divided up into 8 groups. There's the Main Range Group, the Focal Peak Group, Shield Volcano Group, Coastal Group, Washpool and Gibraltar Group, New England Group, Hastings-Macleay Group, and Barrington Tops Group. For our visit, we decided to focus on a few key areas. Our first stop was at Oxley-Wild Rivers National Park in the Hastings-Macleay Group. Although it's largely a eucalyptus forest, there are small, isolated patches of rainforest that you can see from various lookouts and explore from several walking tracks. But the absolute highlight here is definitely Wollomombi Falls, which, at over 200 metres, is among the highest in Australia. The falls are at the end of a large gorge that's just covered in rainforest, and it's a fantastic sight from the nearby lookouts. Unfortunately, there wasn't much water going over the falls when we visited, but in full flow, it's apparently an incredible sight. Next up was New England National Park, located to the east in the New England Group, and it was here that we started to understand why the Gondwana Rainforest was so special. Starting at the Point Lookout, 1,500 metres above sea level, you're surrounded by high-altitude temperate rainforest and looking down on a sea of subtropical and warm temperate rainforest below you. Hiking through the forest here is a real treat, as you're up close and personal with all sorts of rainforest trees and plants, mosses and lichen. It's fascinating to see how the dense rainforest canopy keeps the ground cool and dark, even at high altitude. And the views from Point Lookout are sensational, looking down off the escarpment across wooded valleys to the Pacific Ocean, 70 kilometres away. Our next visit was to Dorrigo National Park, still in the New England Group. Located at a lower altitude from the New England Park, Dorigo is home to the fascinating Skywalk. Here, you can walk on an elevated catwalk through the upper canopy of the rainforest, giving you a fantastic close-up view of the birds, trees, and animals that make their homes in the rainforest canopy. From here, you can also take a stairway that plunges down the side of a cliff to the forest floor, fully immersing yourself in the environment. Surrounded by dark and damp, it's fascinating to see how the varying levels of sunlight affect different areas of the forest. Down here, you'll find loads of beautiful forest floor plants like ferns, mold, lichen, moss, and mushrooms. plus some ground-dwelling birds like the brush turkey and the superb lyrebird. And then there's the final section, another catwalk through the mid-level of the canopy, with trees towering above you and the floor falling away. It's an incredible experience, and it really shows just how special the Gondwana rainforests are. Heading further north, we also visited Nightcap National Park, part of the Shield volcano group, and located just outside the famous surfing town of Byron Bay. Nightcap is another large area of subtropical rainforest, and we immediately headed for its most famous attraction, Minion Falls. Here at Minion, you'll find a 100-meter high plunge waterfall straight off the edge of an extinct volcano. Although the top of the falls is located in eucalyptus forest, it plunges directly into the rainforest, which makes for a fantastic sight. Ferns, palms, figs, and other rainforest trees reaching up towards you. The final part of this World Heritage Site that we visited was the Iluka Nature Reserve, located dramatically on the coast. It's one of the last examples in New South Wales of littoral or beachfront rainforest. This area is quite a fascinating ecosystem because although you walk through a typical dark and cool rainforest, surrounded by animal noises and undergrowth, with a towering canopy overhead, you can actually hear the surf pounding just a few hundred meters away. And the environment itself is really interesting because the salt air and the sea breezes from the ocean restrict the upper reaches of the canopy. Salt-crusted leaves and branches fall down into the sandy undergrowth, where they become a haven for small creatures like birds, snails, mushrooms, and moss. These, in turn, provide food for the larger trees, growing up to the canopy tops, at which point the cycle begins again. One of the most interesting plants at Iluka is the strangler fig. This epiphyte, or parasite plant, starts life as a seedling injected directly into the trunk of a healthy tree. Over time, it grows tendrils up and down the existing tree, strangling it and eventually replacing it entirely. There's heaps of examples here, and they're always really interesting to look at, although they are a bit horrifying when you think about it, sort of like facehuggers from Aliens. Overall, the Gondwana Rainforest World Heritage Site is a fascinating place. Although it is entirely rainforest, visiting so many different locations really highlighted the variations between the warm, the cool, beachfront, alpine, and other rainforests. And, as usual for Australia, a lot of the national parks here are really remote and isolated, and often you're the only visitors. So it really helps to imagine what the Gondwana supercontinent must have been like millions and millions of years ago. Sadly, a lot of the areas we visited were heavily damaged in the 2019-2020 bushfire season. Typically, wet and humid rainforests like this are quite resistant to bushfires, but the season this year was so intense and so destructive that many areas of rainforests were just wiped out. And unlike a lot of Australian eucalyptus forests, which rebounds extremely quickly, Rainforests take years and years to recover, if they ever recover at all. And on that somber note, thank you so much for watching. Give us a thumbs up if you liked the video, leave us a comment to let us know what you thought, and hit subscribe if you'd like to see more from the World Heritage Journey. We'll see you next time.